You are listening to The Growth Signal. My name is Alyssa Nolte,
And I'm Rick DeLisi from Glia.
and we are going to get right into it. Rick, what is your hot take?
Organizations need to recognize that there are some myths or some misnomers about using AI for customer interactions. And once organizations get to understand exactly what AI is good for and the extent to which it can help people throughout an entire organization, this is the best time ever to be in customer service or customer interactions.
You mean, Rick, I can't just magically plug in my AI of choice and it's going to do everything perfect out of the box, and I can't wave my magic wand and have an entire AI powered customer support team? That's not reality.
Well, I think you can, but it's a question of exactly what your goals are.
Yeah.
And what we're learning is that the goal of automation, the goal of virtual assistants should be to help people who have issues that are simple, easily answered, everyday routine questions. According to our research and analysis, about half the time, 50% or so of the time that people would reach out to a bank or credit union, because we work exclusively in financial services, about half of those interactions can be handled perfectly by a virtual assistant, but the other half cannot. And so the key is to be able to match the right customer to the right type of interaction at exactly the right moment based on their need or the reason that they're contacting you. And so if it's a simple question that could be answered easily by the virtual assistant, great. That's an immediate, low effort, satisfying experience. However, if there is a need to then transition to a live human, that person should also be aided by AI to make their job simpler, more efficient, and even more rewarding.
I think that that is such a great example. And I know you mentioned that you work primarily in financial and credit unions. I work in all kinds of different places, but I had a real interesting experience where I found myself as basically like the human middleware between a customer and my AI. So I have a nonprofit organization that I volunteer with, and they have an event where they live stream it. And it's a live stream that goes like 3 days, all day long. Hundreds of people are logging in, various levels of tech comfort. And I spent basically 2 full days fielding questions from people that were struggling to access the live stream, and it was
Yeah.
usually something like, "Change your browser, try refreshing, clear your cookies, switch to desktop mode versus mobile mode. Are you connected to Wi-Fi, connected to network?" Like, all of those things. And I started to get a script down, but there were a couple times where I was like, "I don't know how to explain this to you in a way that's gonna come through." So I took their email, I dropped it into ChatGPT, and I said, "Here's what I think is going on. Can you write up 3 easy steps that is, like, super idiot proof to follow that I can email back to them?" And then I just kinda, like, got a thing going with my ChatGPT where it was helping me be more efficient and effective in my tech support for these people, but I was the human middleware instead of the other way around. And I would love to, I said to the executive director, I'm like, "Next year, we just need a little AI agent or a little chat bot that they can ask all these questions to, and someone who's really in trouble can escalate to me instead of me being human middleware."
Yeah. That's a tough position to be in because you're trying to explain to somebody who's looking at their screen what
Yeah.
you're seeing on your screen.
And
Now, if
especially when
you
I can't replicate their error. Like, I'm just
yeah,
trying to guess at what it was because mine is fine. My screen looks great.
what if you were able to look at the customer screen though? And that's one of
Right.
the things that we believe strongly in at Glia, which is called co-browsing. In a situation where you're trying to explain something technical or help a customer navigate on their own screen, what if you and the customer were both looking at the customer screen with a twin cursor? And that means you wouldn't just be fixing the customer's problem, you'd be showing them how to fix it themselves, but with that guidance that can only come when both parties are looking at the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. And in a way that doesn't feel like, "Okay, send me a screenshot. Okay, I'm gonna mark up
Yeah.
that screenshot. Okay, I'm gonna send it back to you." Like, it works, but it is clunky, and it's frustrating for me, especially as a volunteer for this moment, and it's frustrating for the customer, and with a live event, they're trying to get to see their thing
Right.
that they logged on to see, and then they miss it. So, it becomes a whole thing. So if someone is, like, hearing this and they are in vehement agreement with us and they're saying, "Okay, Rick and Alyssa, you've sold me on this concept. I need to get AI integrated into my system somehow. However, I don't know where to start. I don't know what I'm doing." What is the one thing in your experience that they need to start doing so that they can effectively make AI part of their flow without damaging their customer experience?
Yeah, this is about enhancing the customer experience. And the key is understanding the concept of the channelless platform. So at Glia, we have pioneered a concept that combines all forms of digital, all voice communications, whether online or by phone, and all elements of what we call AI for all into one seamless unified platform. And AI for all means AI applications that help customers who have simple questions to resolve them immediately with virtual assistants, AI that helps live agents so that they can understand who this customer is, what their need is, their own history, providing suggestions, information from the knowledge base to make the frontline agent's job a lot easier. AI for managers that allows for things like workforce management, quality assurance, coaching, and counseling, using AI to uncover the opportunities that exist for this person I'm coaching. And then executive AI to be able to mine the database of every interaction you've ever done with every customer as a way to look for insights, opportunities for continuous improvement, potential suggestions for new product development, and even just a rolling 24/7 focus group of your customer base.
What about though, like our top customers? Is this, you say AI for everyone? Does it mean AI for all? Like if I am just a normal everyday personal banking customer and I log on, that makes total sense to me that I'm, trying to do 90% of my work through this agent and get those easy questions answered. But we all have those clients that we are a little more careful with, a little more white glove. Is this what they want too? Or are the rules different for the quote unquote more important clients?
Well, in the scenario we're describing, everyone is treated like a VIP. So, for example, if your need requires that you speak to a human being, the person you're going to be talking to before they even say hello to you already knows who you are because you've
Yeah,
been authenticated in the system. They already know what your issue is, and they're already working on it before they say hello. And so that is the ultimate VIP experience. It's the difference between, "Hi, I'm Rick. How may I help you?" And, "Hey, Miss Nolte, looks like you're trying to apply for an auto loan. I could totally help you with that. In fact,
yeah,
I've already started the process." That's how you would treat a VIP. But
right.
in this scenario, everyone gets that same treatment.
Yeah, it's almost like that dream that we all had like 10 years ago of hyper personalized website experiences
Yes.
is finally able to come to fruition because we all got promised a lot of things a decade ago around, well, your website will change and adapt to the person who sees it rather than the generic experience or just a bunch of like pathways that you've created. So one of the things, though, that I'm experiencing right now that's actually driving me a little bit crazy is I'm working on getting, like, a payroll thing set up, for accounting, and I'm not gonna name drop the company, though, because I think they're taking your concept just a little bit too far. Whereas, like, I'm trying to set it up, I'm not going through the process. I have a couple of questions I need to ask my accountant, so I've got the process set up, and every time I log in, but I don't finish it, I get a phone call, like, immediately from it, and I've done it 2 or 3 times, and I keep answering the phone. They're like, "Do you need any help with setting up your payroll?" I'm like, "I do not. I just have a question that I need to ask my accountant about, like, our tax situation." So, like, just I'm good, but now I've logged in 3 times. I've gotten 3 phone calls, 3 emails, and a text message from them trying to help me set it up, and I get that they're trying to be helpful and, like, treat me like a VIP, but I also want them to, like, put a note in their system, like, "She's working on it. Just leave her alone until she calls you," you know?
Yeah, let's put a title on your story, and the title is "When Proactivity Becomes Totally Annoying."
Yes, yes, and I understand them, and I'm being nice about it because I'm like, "I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to be a good, like, service delivery team." However, read the room, like, I've told you 3 times on a phone call, I'm good. I don't need help. But when we're thinking about, your experience with financial and my experience in anything that has to do with money, banking, finances at all, people can get really nervous about it because it's 1, their private sensitive information, but 2, it's high stakes for all of us, right? It's what makes the world go round. So how do you balance being proactive, having people's data at their fingertips, and not making them feel like they shouldn't be sharing this information because they don't necessarily want it out there? How do we keep that trust layer in place?
Well, first of all, the AI partner you work with has to have security, compliance, and safety foremost in their minds. At Glia, we practice what's called responsible AI, meaning at no point does any customer ever get sent any information that isn't already completely approved by the bank or credit union. So there's no hallucinations, there's no false information, the bot doesn't know what to say, so it makes up an answer. There's none of that. Second of all, when you're communicating with your bank, it has to be through secure channels, and everything we're talking about is fully secure. But third is, you talked about these important moments, these critical, what we might call moments of truth. That's not every interaction you're having with your bank or credit union. Again, about half the time it's what's my balance? Did this check clear? Where your branch is located? What are your hours? What is your routing number? Those kinds of simple issues can be resolved so perfectly with virtual assistants. But again, if you need to connect with a live human, that person should be anticipating your needs, should already know who you are, and be treating you like a very valued customer, not wasting your time, not having to ask you a million preliminary questions. All that's already taken care of
Yeah.
by the time the human enters the equation. And so, interestingly, AI is actually helping live humans become more human.
Yeah. Because you don't have to spend time dealing with okay, tell me what your problem is again. Okay, tell me
Right.
how I can help you again. Okay, tell me what you're looking for. Let me escalate you up to another person because I don't know how to help you. And then you do the same old song and dance of what you're trying to achieve in the first place.
When you think about any interaction you've had with any company, instead of thinking of it as a single entity, the phone call I made or the digital interaction I made, when you divide it up into its various segments and phases, the first two are authentication, and especially in financial services, we have to make sure you are who you say you are, not a fraudster. And number two is issue diagnosis or discovery. Those steps can now be automated. And so saving the amount of time that it takes to do all those steps allows the human in the resolution of your issue to spend a little bit more time or to connect you with you in a more human way. That's a big difference.
Yeah, and that's really all what we're all just looking for that, right? In a
Yeah.
world of working from home, like I love working from home, you could never drag me back to the office. However, we're still all just looking for human connection, something that matters to do things that mean something. And so both on your employee side, who doesn't have to ask the same questions and deal with the same one-off, like, I can't find my password, I can't figure out how to log in, like those things that are automatable, freeing you up to deal with the things that truly require a person. Like that's gotta feel good not only as a customer, but on a person, like employee side.
Think about the operation of a contact center, or geez, we used to call it a call center. The typical business model or the typical mental model of the call center is we're understaffed, we're underappreciated, we're underwater a lot of the time. What if there's a little bit more breathing room? If you
Yeah.
could eliminate 50% of the live interactions that can now be fully automated, it just frees everything and everyone up to have a little bit more breathing room, or even to enable employees to participate in local volunteer activities during work hours some of the time, to be
Mhm.
able to upskill or spend a little bit more time in training, to perhaps even become more specialized in things like revenue generation or identifying customers who are likely to be interested in a new product or service instead of just grinding through the queue, call after call, day after day.
What do you think is, the clients that you've worked with, what do you think is the biggest blind spot that they come into an AI rollout or enablement engagement into? What is the thing that what's the misconception you'd like to dispel?
There is this fear, and again, especially among credit unions and community banks, whose whole reputation and brand identity is about connecting with people and building communities and being part of the culture of a local area. There's this fear that the more we move toward AI, the more we lose touch with people, that we won't ever have an opportunity to interact with customers anymore, or that the bots will take over and do everything. I understand that fear. It seems rational. But again, the reality is when you go issue by issue, the specific reasons that customers are contacting you, about half of those are simple and routine and can be automated so that the other 50%, the ones that really require a human being, can be done with even more skill and more care and maybe a little bit more time in the provision or solution of your issue, in the resolution of the reason that you've contacted us. So this really is a win-win.
I also think too, like when I hear that we'll lose touch with our customers, and I can immediately see that fear, but then I have to wonder on the flip side of it is, well, why do you wanna have touch with your customers? Is it for their benefit or for yours? Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's for your benefit as the business trying to sell something because you wanna know what they're working on and know what they're up to and be top of mind for them. But is it really to the customer's benefit to have a human physical interaction with you? Probably not most of the time, right? So we hear a lot of companies talk about being customer centric, right?
Yeah.
And I think you might have a good argument that leading with AI or at least allowing people to have the choice to engage with an AI for their easy stuff is one of the most customer centric things you can do.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time thinking about the quest for customer centricity, Alyssa, and I think
Yeah.
it's more than fair to
Quest is
say,
the right word.
yeah, if you asked a room full of people, are you customer centric? Is your company customer centric? 100% of hands go up in the room.
Right, because it's
But
the
when I
right answer. It's the one you're
right.
supposed to say.
And it is a belief, people who raise their hands aren't lying, or at least they don't believe they are. But if you spend a lot of time thinking about your customers, analyzing your customers, using data to get a 360-degree view of your customers, if you're spending a lot of time thinking about your customers, you're inadvertently becoming even more company centric. The key to customer centricity is don't spend a lot of time thinking about your customers, but rather think like your customers.
Yeah.
And particularly in customer service, think like a person who has some kind of a problem or an issue or is confused about something or needs to make a decision that they're not quite sure of, or maybe they detect fraud on their account or they're concerned about something. You know, walk a mile in their shoes at that exact moment. It's all well and good to think about trying to serve the needs of your customers throughout their lifetime, their financial needs, their family goals, their overall financial picture. But at the exact moment that a person is picking up the phone or logging online to contact you about a problem or an issue, that's the only thing that matters at that moment.
Yeah. I always tell people, tell me about a time when the customer won and you lost.
Right.
Not a mutual win-win, not a mutual success. Like, tell me a time that you gave up something that you wanted for the sake of what the customer wanted. And everyone's like, "Hmm." Like, it's a hard question to answer
What
because it
if
is
it was
difficult.
possible, though, to achieve both?
Yeah,
As I've been
absolutely.
studying this space for over 2 decades now, and historically, there's always been this conflict or this trade-off between efficiency and
Mhm.
experience. You could lean in one direction or another, and many companies do, but it's always at the detriment of the other. But
Yep.
what we're talking about here is way more economically efficient. It's about fewer live interactions. It's about the live interactions that you're doing being faster and more efficient. But it's also creating a way better experience for customers when you're matching the exact right interaction to the need that they have at this moment. So you don't have to think of a moment where we won and you lost, or you lost and we won, because here we're talking about everyone coming out ahead. This really is the best of both worlds, and it's never been achievable before.
So tell us more about Glio. What do you do? Who do you serve? I know obviously financial institutions, but what is it about Glia that people should sit up and pay attention to and start to follow along with?
Yeah, Glia is the creators of the Channelist platform, as I mentioned before. Again, all elements of digital and voice and AI, all part of one seamless platform. That's a completely different model than the way most companies have operated. And by the way, there was no other way to operate until now, other than what we've called the bolt on approach. Every customer service operation started with a call center and a nucleus of telephony. And then as other digital features and functions and technologies came along, they were all bolted on top of the customer service machine. None of them designed to communicate with each other. All of them operated by separate vendors. All of them launched at separate times. It's a mess. But again, up until now, there was no other way to operate than to continue adding on. But now that we have the opportunity for everything to be seamlessly unified, it's like a do-over. It's like starting the way you've always wanted to operate without any of the burdens, without having to deal with so many different vendors and the complexity that ends up creating these disjointed, disconnected, high effort customer experiences.
Considering all of the people that you know or aspire to know, who else is out there? Who else should we be paying attention to?
Well, at the risk of spotlighting my own boss, our CEO and co-founder Dan McKelly is a true visionary, and everything that we're doing today is the culmination of now 14 years of work. And it's very exciting to be working with and under somebody who really has a true vision for completely changing the way customer service operates. I'll add one other name, and that's Matt Dixon, who I worked with on the book The Effortless Experience. Matt is one of the true thought leaders in the entire customer experience space. And his work, including his work on the book, The Challenger Sale and the Challenger Customer, is a real must read for all sales and marketing teams.
And if someone is hearing this, they're really connecting with you, they want to follow along, they love what you have to say and want more, where can they find you online?
So I'm on LinkedIn. So just come to Rick DeLisi on LinkedIn or visit us at glia.com, GLIA. And in the top right corner of our website is a button called Get Started. Press that button and we'll take care of all the rest. We can set you up with customized demos, share information, case studies, white papers, thought leadership, help you see the way you operate in customer service as now being at the precipice of something that is not only better or different, but the solution to the problems and the hassles and the high effort that we've all been going through in this space for years and years.
Rick, thank you so much for coming on the show. I loved this conversation. I love the idea of we can have experience and we can have efficiency and it's now is the time for us to take advantage of this and I'm so excited for you to bring this perspective to the show.
Thanks. I will leave you with this thought. I just recently, it occurred to me who I feel sorry for. I feel very sorry for people who've worked in customer service for 20, 30 years and are
Yeah.
just about to retire right now
Right when it's getting
because
good.
you've missed the celebration, you've missed the cutting of the cake. You've put in all this time and all this effort for so long, but finally, the three words that keep ringing in my mind is help has arrived. AI is the help, the assistance, the support you never had before, and it's all there ready and waiting for you.
Well, it's not too late if you're just about to retire. It's all, old dogs can learn new tricks. So,
Right.
Rick, thank you so much for coming on this show. I loved this conversation.
Great to